History is shaped by the leaders who emerge in times of crisis, visionaries who stand at the crossroads of change, and the bold figures who reshape entire nations. One such leader was Mikhail Gorbachev, the man who ended the Cold War, redefined Soviet Russia, and left an indelible mark on the world. This is the story of Mikhail Gorbachev. Born on March 2, 1931, in the small village of Privolnoye in southern Russia, Mikhail Sergeyevich Gorbachev grew up during a time of great political and social upheaval. As a child, he witnessed the devastation of World War II, the destruction of his family's farm, and the hardships of Soviet life. Yet, it was in these turbulent years that Gorbachev would learn the values of hard work, resilience, and a deep sense of duty to his country. Graduating from Moscow State University in 1955 with a degree in law, Gorbachev joined the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. His intellectual abilities, work ethic, and vision quickly caught the attention of party officials. By the 1970s, Gorbachev had risen through the ranks, becoming a member of the Politburo, the heart of Soviet political power. In March of 1985, at the age of 54, Gorbachev was unexpectedly appointed General Secretary of the Communist Party, the highest position in the Soviet Union. The nation was in decline. The economy was stagnating, the public was disillusioned, and the international community was concerned about the arms race. Gorbachev knew that change was inevitable, but what kind of change? Gorbachev was different from his predecessors. While they adhered to the rigid doctrines of Soviet socialism, Gorbachev embraced reform. His agenda would become known as Glasnost and Perestroika. Glasnost, meaning openness, aimed at increasing transparency in government and granting more freedoms to Soviet citizens, while Perestroika, restructuring, was a series of economic reforms designed to revitalize the Soviet economy. For the first time in decades, the Soviet people had a glimpse of political freedom, a chance to speak out about their frustrations with the government, and even criticize their leaders. The new policies were bold and controversial. Gorbachev sought to loosen the grip of the central government, introduce market-oriented reforms, and tackle corruption within the Communist Party. But with reform came chaos. The Soviet Union's deep-seated problems, from food shortages to a lack of basic consumer goods, only worsened. And the more Gorbachev opened the door to change, the more forces beyond his control began to gather. Gorbachev's vision was not confined to domestic policy alone. In the global arena, the Cold War had been raging for decades, with the United States and the Soviet Union locked in a fierce ideological battle. Gorbachev understood that the arms race was unsustainable and that the world stood on the brink of nuclear disaster. In 1985, Gorbachev met U.S. President Ronald Reagan. The two men, despite their differences, would develop a surprising bond. They reached agreements that led to major reductions in nuclear arms, and for the first time in decades, the superpowers began to ease tensions. This period of détente culminated in the signing of the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty in 1987. But Gorbachev's true legacy on the global stage was the way he handled the collapse of the Soviet Empire. As Eastern Europe began to demand more freedom and democracy, Gorbachev refused to use force to suppress uprisings, marking a dramatic departure from the brutal tactics of his predecessors. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, and with it, the Iron Curtain began to crumble. The world was changing, and Gorbachev had played a pivotal role in it. However, not all was smooth sailing. While Gorbachev had opened the door to reform, the results were unpredictable. In 1991, faced with rising nationalist movements within the republics of the Soviet Union, Gorbachev struggled to hold the Union together. In August of that year, a failed coup attempt by hardline Communist Party members sent shockwaves through the country. Despite the coup's failure, the damage had been done. Gorbachev's authority was shattered, and many republics declared their independence. On December 25, 1991, Gorbachev resigned as president of the Soviet Union, marking the official end of the Soviet era. Mikhail Gorbachev's legacy is one of profound transformation. He dismantled the Soviet Empire, helped bring an end to the Cold War, and set the stage for the world we live in today. But his reforms came at a great cost. The Soviet Union was replaced by 15 independent nations, and Russia would undergo a period of turmoil and uncertainty. Some see Gorbachev as a hero, a man who sought peace and transparency in an era of secrecy and oppression. Others view him as a failure, a leader whose reforms destabilized his country. But regardless of the perspective, one thing is clear: Mikhail Gorbachev's impact on the world was undeniable. From the fall of the Berlin Wall to the end of the Cold War, Gorbachev's vision changed the course of history. And while his story may be controversial, his place in history is secure. Mikhail Gorbachev, the man who dared to change the world.